Hello, my friends. It's Andy Falco Jimenez coming to you live from Yorba Linda, California. A lot has been going on in this campaign for not only the school board members, but the city council. We got bills that are going to be coming through, and so many things, and so much to research. I encourage you all to take I had my ballot here and I just moved it. Take your ballot and really research everything that's going on. This Proposition Z that we're dealing with here in Yorba Linda is a bit of a stumper on which way to go. I've been working through some information and, some really looking at what is it that is best for Yorba Linda. Although my vote is just one vote, it is a difficult one because you really have to look at what a yes vote means, what a no vote means, and then what are the complications that come with lawsuits against Sacramento or Sacramento against Yorba Linda, and what it is that's going to have to be paid and all this kind of stuff through the lawsuits, and if Yorba Linda loses, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's very complex. So I'm going to continue to research that, look into it, and see what it is that we should really be voting on in regard to this rezoning. But tonight's show, what I want to talk about is this fantastic, almost admission, in a sense, through the letter that Dr. Matthews sent out. First, he sent it out to all the employees of the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District to let them know that Cal State Fullerton was no longer, at least temporarily, halting a program of sending student teachers from the university to the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District as interns, and encouraging them to apply for jobs, which is fantastic. I see some liberals melting down in some of the social media platforms that I'm watching and paying attention to. And it is really interesting, but it actually is one of the best things that has happened for parents of PYL. Now, the majority of parents that I know that have children in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District understand that Cal State Fullerton, Chapman University were placing in our school district teachers and student teachers who did not have our students' best interest, and especially not our parents' best interest in mind. And they worked very, very hard against the voting for a resolution that banned CRT in our school district. And they sent students from Chapman University and Cal State Fullerton to speak at the podium, even though they did not have children in the school district, and posed as concerned community members. And so what I want to do is I put together a presentation that will explain not only why this letter really speaks to the fact that PYL parents were right, that Leander Blades was right, that Sean Youngblood was right, and even Marilyn Anderson was right in voting to ban CRT, and why it is so important. Now, I know there are a number of parents that are still in the dark, perhaps, maybe on purpose, maybe because their friends have said that, awful lies about Leandra and Sean, and even about me, and other parents that show up at school board meetings, and they have convinced a large number of people. I don't know how many, I'm just going to say enough to cause concern that we as parents who understand what CRT was doing to our kids and what it will do to our kids if we allow it to propagate into our curriculum at Placentia Yorba Linda School District. But we're concerned that some of them are going to make a vote in a way that is not in the best interest of their children or the rest of the children in the school district, and for the parents, for that matter. That because they are in the dark and because they have chosen to ignore the truth and believe what the teachers unions wants to put out there, that it'll make it I feel very strongly that Todd Frazier and Rich Engel will get voted into the school board, but I don't want it to be so close that we're concerned. We want there to be a huge win, not we don't want them to squeak by because some parents have chosen not to hear the truth, or they are simply believing some of the lies. So allow me to put in this presentation. I felt that I needed to put it together in a video because I'm using some slides and some screenshots and some other stuff, and I wanted to be a little bit smoother than trying to do it manually while I'm running the show. So I pre-recorded it, but I will be monitoring the chat. So please comment as I'm going through this presentation to explain. I want you to take away from my presentation. I want you to take away these things: that the PYL parents who understand what nonsense, anything that has to do with CRT, DEI, social emotional learning, SEL, that anything that involves those acronyms and the philosophy or the theory, let's say, behind them, that if you don't understand how bad this is for our school, I'm hoping you're going to get a little bit of an understanding of why it's bad. I want you to get an understanding of the lies that people have been saying that it's not in our school or that it was never going to be in our school. Cal State Fullerton's letter shoots that down completely. Dr. Matthews did us a favor by giving us the letter and sending it all to the parents and all throughout the school and all throughout the employees as proof that it was actually being pushed into our school, and before long it would be part of our curriculum, and it was important for us to ban it. So I'm hoping through this presentation you will see those things, and then you will see finally the connection of Karen Freeman and Carrie Buck, how they are a tool used by the teachers unions to push these ideologies and this indoctrination, and have done nothing but harm our students over the last several decades. They may have been doing it slowly enough to where it does not seem like a big deal, but in the end, our grading and our standards have had to be lowered to a point where our children are just simply not being educated in our schools here. So I'm hoping through this presentation you will be able to see some of those things that I pointed out. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll at the end, after the video, I will talk a little bit about Steve Slauson and why you need to just ignore him on the ballot, and just it has no purpose, no reason, no rhyme or reason. He can't be trusted. He's lied throughout the campaign, and we'll discuss that at the end before we end this broadcast. All right, so here we go with the presentation, and then I will see you when we get back. But again, make sure and comment and let me know what it is you are thinking, and in the meantime, make sure and share it out to other people that need to hear this. Okay, here we go. Okay, as I said, part of this, several people on the other side will just continue to choose to ignore, but it's important that we continue to make it clear what it is that Placentia Yorba Linda parents are for and what they are not for or not against. So I'm going to do my very best to make this clear. Again, it won't change a couple people's minds, but maybe there's somebody out there who's still on the fence. So make sure that you share this video out to those people you think who need to understand what it is that parents are fighting for. So PYL, Placentia Yorba Linda parents, what we are for and what we are against. PYL parents are pro-teacher and anti-teachers unions. So what you may not hear from the other side, or what you are hearing from the other side, is that a clear message of what it is that we are fighting for. We are fighting for children and good teachers. That's what we are fighting for. We are against the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions have proven to be the enemy of education and parents and children. And I'm going to make hopefully a clearer point. We're not going to discuss anything in regard to the pandemic, because if I do, that will get the video completely blocked. But we could surely make a case for that. But I'm going to put that aside and make an argument just on the issues in regard to education. All right, so we are pro-teacher, anti-teachers union. I want to make that clear, and I'm going to continue to try to make that clear and do my best. And so, again, we don't hate teachers. You can have teacher after teacher go up in front of the school board and at the podium and say that parents hate the teachers, or that because we hate unions that we hate teachers. That is not true. We don't hate teachers. We hate what is being taught and what is not being taught. We hate what is being taught and what is not being taught. Not everything, but there's a large portion of what is being pushed into our schools through Sacramento via the teachers' unions and social justice warriors and woke liberals. All the enemy of parents, children, and good teachers. How do we know this? Is because we can go back a year ago with the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, Superintendent Adamson gave this presentation showing that clearly the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District isn't alone in not only the state of California, but in the country, where we have very poor education that is clearly being shown in these graphics that they provided, not us, not parents, but Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District provided. And I would say actually ours are probably better than most, but they are still very, very poor. And that is only 40% of the students in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District are at par or at grade level in regard to reading. And that's K through 8. I'm guessing they didn't put 9 through 12 because it probably made it worse. But let's just say K through 8 is what we have here. Is that we can clearly see that below the grade or the grade level are 32%, one grade below, and then 2 or more, there's 23%. That are 2 grades or lower in regard to reading at the Placentia Yorba Linda School District. Only 4% are above. Only 4%. We should have 90% above. 90% above. When it comes to math, it's worse. 32.3% are at grade level, and 43.5% are 1 level below their grade. And then 2 levels below grade is at 23%. So 23% of the children that go to Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District are 2 grades or more below grade level. Only 1.2% are above grade level. So again, we don't hate teachers, because we think the teachers, if given the right tools and given the right curriculum and the ability to get away from a whole bunch of other stuff that is being forced upon them, they could get back to educating our kids on how to read, write, count, and think. If we could get rid of all this other stuff, these good teachers, these teachers that want to do a good job, could go back to actually educating our kids and bring those grade levels up. But instead, what we hate especially is the indoctrination. This is what we believe is getting in the way of much of the education at not only Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, but at other school districts across the state of California and across the United States of America. Indoctrinating our children with CRT, critical race theory, and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what does that mean? Many people are confused when they hear this thing. They go, "Well, it sounds good when they're addressing these things that have to do race, or there are people that are racist, and they want to give you the idea that this is actually good, when in fact the thing that's destroying our children, it is causing mental health problems, and it is blocking good teachers from educating our children." So, I'm going to do my best to explain at least what it is you need to know, only because if we go too far, too deep, this is where people begin to get confused, and they close their minds and their eyes and their ears and say, "I don't want to hear anymore." But simply put, when it comes to critical race theory, it has to do with everything in regard to racism, the sexualization, and the destruction of the family. That really is what CRT is all about. They do this through things like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You hear that a lot. We even see it on websites, which I'll show you those websites, which include the NEA, which is the National Educator Association, which is the National Teachers Association, and the CTA, which is the California Teachers Association, and the APLE, which is the Association of Placentia Linda Educators. These are all teachers unions that are partnered. They are a cabal that push CRT, which includes DEI, again, which is on many of their websites. You even hear the teachers talk about it, how important it is to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is CRT, just using different words. Equity, which is the middle portion of DEI, which is race-based curriculum, race-based policies, and race-based segregation. SEL, you hear that a lot. That sounds great, right? When people talk about, "Hey, we need to do some social emotional learning. We need to have curriculum that involves social," it is bad. I don't know how many different ways to tell you, but if you just did your homework and looked and see what it is that they think about, what they are pushing when it comes to SEL or social emotional learning, it is bad. It is social justice education. Again, going back, it's just another name for DEI and CRT, and throws in this equity. Every time you hear equity, think bad. It is not good. It is something based on race, where you are either oppressed or you're an oppressor, or you need to not be graded at such to be subjected to actually learning how to read, write, or count, because that's racist according to these people. That in regard to equity, that they should not be forced to learn. They should not be forced to get good grades. They should not be forced to show up to school. They should not be forced to show up on school on time. This is what involves SEL, equity, DEI, and CRT. That somehow being responsible enough to turn in your homework is racist. Subjectivism, an incredibly horrific thing that they're bringing into schools. And that's a philosophy and theory that there is no truth outside one's own experience. That push aside science, push aside fact, push aside mathematics. That it's more important to have subjectivism as opposed to what is true and what is factual when it comes to whether the sky is blue or not, or grass is green, or 2 + 2 = 4, that's not important. Subjectivism is more important, which is wrong. That does not work when you're building a bridge. It does not work when you're building a building. It does not work when you are operating on somebody's brain. There's no subjectivism in that. There is only science, truth, and fact when you're dealing with these things. If not, the building falls down. The bridge doesn't hold the weight of the vehicles, and somebody will die because of subjectivism when it comes to brain surgery. It is not true that math, reading, and grades are racist, but this is what they want you to believe in CRT, that there is no right answer. And then lastly, gender confusion in regard to pronouns and the sexualization of minors. It literally is also the destruction of families. So this is what happens, in our school board meetings and during the campaigns with these great candidates we have, is that we get to people's doors or we look on social media, and we're continually fighting against the lies that the Carrie Buck and Karen Freeman's surrogates are pushing out there, and her supporters, or their supporters, and that is that CRT wasn't being taught. that it's a lie, that all these things. And so we have here Julie Ryder Sucard, I guess that's how you say her name. She's the treasurer for Carrie Buck. It's been reposted by a woman by the name of Karen Lawson. I'm not sure who she is, but I just found this posting. And it says here very clearly that no, Carrie and Karen, both of the incumbents that were hoping to get voted out of the school board, didn't vote to fund CRT. I didn't know there was such a thing. There was never a vote for funding or defunding. There was no such thing. So again, they're throwing something in there that causes confusion because people go, oh, I didn't know that they were trying to fund it. No, we weren't doing. What are you talking about? There was nothing on the agenda for funding CRT. But she does admit that they voted against it. They want CRT, and parents at Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District do not want CRT. The attorneys may have been arguing that it shouldn't be done because they are, again, being paid for and bought off by teachers' unions and the school district and the superintendents, who are all being bought off by teachers' unions. But what they try to tell you here is that, again, in the last part here, that CRT is not taught in K through 12 schools. Well, thank God we have Dr. Matthews, who was able to show us something different, which I'll share with you in just one second. What I do want to make sure and bring to your attention is that we did not ever say, we'll come back to my camera for just a second, we did not say necessarily that you could point to a curriculum at any one of the schools in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District. That's never anything that I don't believe anybody said. It's possible that a parent got up there and says, hey, my child was at school, they were in social studies, and the teacher began to teach about Black Lives Matter Corporation, or began to teach that criminals are good and police officers are systemically racist. And although that's not in the curriculum, the teacher was teaching an important issue in regard to CRT. CRT does believe that the theory does teach and believe, at least the people who are putting together this CRT curriculum, believe that cops are racist and criminals are good. That is true. They don't believe in the nuclear family, and they want to do everything they can to destroy the nuclear family. They do believe that men can get pregnant. They do believe that people should be identified not as boy or girl, but as some type of pronoun. These are the things coming from the people that believe in CRT. But we never said that you could actually pull up a curriculum out of a teacher's classroom and say, here it is. No, what's happening is here, back to my screen, is that the CTA, California Teachers Association, the NEA, the National Educators Association, and APLE have a website where they suggest this book, that teachers read this book so that they could teach in a way outside of the curriculum, so that under the radar, they can bring in these types of things, this CRT, the DEI, the things that I pointed out in the earlier slide. And it says here, sex workers, and what they're trying to do is they want teachers to act like sex workers. This is the paragraph I took out of the book, or out of the PDF that they send to teachers, that says sex workers have long existed in legal gray areas, figuring out how to make a living, stay safe, and avoid liability wherever possible. And so what they're suggesting is that that teachers need to do that too, to teach in a way that simulates how sex workers operate. Sex workers, they say here, and teachers also face stigma, judgment, and pushback from both the Christian right and sex work exclusionary feminist swerves on the left. But progressive spaces would be wise to work together with sex workers to brave this new world where accessing basic health care can land you in jail, which is not true, especially not in California. To do so, though, they will also have to accept that sex work is work, and that supporting and embracing sex workers in reproductive justice spaces, just like supporting other workers. This is critical to ensure the reproductive and sexual liberation of everyone. Coming back to my camera. This is a way of teaching teachers how to teach under the radar, not based on the curriculum that is approved by school boards and superintendents and parents for that matter, that those things are going to be the cover. Those are the things that we're going to show parents. But under the radar, we want you to operate says CTA and NEA and APLE in regard to CRT, DEI, and all the other social justice nonsense is we want you to do that under the radar. And this is a direct PDF found on the NEA website that is also partnered with the CTA and the APLE going forward. So bringing up this letter. So Dr. Matthews puts out a letter to all the employees first at PYLUSD. Later on, he sent it out to all the parents. I believe he did so only because he did not necessarily think when he sent it to the employees that the parents would see it. And I think what he found out is that this was shared to the parents and shared publicly, and probably, I can't say this for sure, I'm just guessing that he thought, you know what, I better send it out to all the parents just to avoid the appearance that I was hiding this from parents and only sending it to teachers. So I could be wrong, but I'm telling you, this is what I believe. So this is a letter that he first sent out as a top. It says, Dear PYLUSD employees, and there's a letter about Cal State University Fullerton. And many of you that are watching this that have kids in the school saw the email or the letter that was sent out in a text message to all the parents that are in Aries that saw this. And the idea, back to my camera really quick, the idea that you saw in that post and that we hear at the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District school board meetings from teachers from Chapman University, students in Cal State University Fullerton that got up there and spoke as they said, we don't know why you're banning something that's not being taught. Those are their words. The words in that post says they banned something that's not being taught. But yet, Dr. Matthews, thankfully enough, sends out a message from Cal State Fullerton that shows exactly what we were talking about, what was the truth, and that is the teachers are being put into our schools through Cal State University, Fullerton, through Chapman University and possibly other universities, with this teaching of how to teach under the radar, how to teach critical race theory under the radar. And I'm going to take you to a paragraph here that's very important for you to see, because the idea that this was not being brought into the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District is such nonsense and such BS. And they're going to continue to say this all the way to Election Day. But thank you, Dr. Matthews, who sent out this letter that showed Cal State Fullerton has teachers in our school district that are doing exactly what they thought they were going to do. Now, let's just say that they weren't actively doing it now, but they're set up to do it in the future. So Leander Blades and Sean Youngblood and Marilyn Anderson did the right thing by blocking it now so it wouldn't be harder to fight it later. So let's just say, let's pretend for a moment that it was not being actively taught under the radar, when we know that it was, because we got reports from our kids, of course, and we saw what was happening during the pandemic. But let's just say that wasn't happening, that it was clearly the right move and fantastic to block and ban CRT, even though it is still going on today. We need to still fix some things. That it was fantastic that we were able to get it, at least for now, blocked at this level, and hopefully even more so later on, that it was in our future, even if it wasn't being taught now. So let's go to this portion of the letter. And it says here, this is from Cal State, but this is from the dean of Cal State Fullerton educators, a portion of the Cal State University Fullerton University. And it says here, our vision and mission for the College of Education at California State University Fullerton is to cultivate educators who are prepared to provide just, equitable, there's the word again, and inclusive, another key word, education in birth, not even from pre-K, not even from kindergarten, from birth through post-secondary settings, theory to practice experiences, including clinical practicums, field work, and student teaching are major components of effective teacher preparation. Getting them into the school so they can begin to learn how to navigate. In other words, come back to my camera. So what they're saying here, what this university dean is saying here is that it's important to not only teach them these things, but to get them in early so they can learn how to navigate how to get these things, to this equitable and inclusive education, how to begin from birth, not from pre-K, not from kindergarten, from birth, to begin to indoctrinate them with this nonsense. So clearly, the purpose to get teachers into our school to begin early on, not only teaching our kids, but to teach their students how to work under the radar when it comes to equitable and inclusive education, which is nonsense. It sounds great. Again, I will continue to tell you that it sounds great. It's kind of like the Inflation Reduction Act, which does nothing to reduce inflation. It sounds good. People vote for it and they say, listen, it's important to vote for the inflation reduction because inflation's high that he created. It's high. So let's vote for this thing that's going to reduce, but it doesn't reduce inflation. It's the same thing here. It does not make things equitable, and it does not make people inclusive. It separates people even further. It is the exact opposite of what it is that they're saying. So back to the paragraph here. Theory to practice experiences, including clinical practicums, field work, and student teaching, are major components of effective teacher preparation. Therefore, it is critical that we place teacher candidates in districts that support their growth and development throughout the program. So here's the important part. As we go, sorry, I should have hit the button before. The placement of student teachers in Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, PYLUSD, at this time would place us in conflict with Fullerton's, Cal State Fullerton's goals to prepare teacher candidates with pedagogical approaches rooted in diversity, equity, inclusion, remember DEI, social justice, race and gender. Remember, I've always included gender and sexual issues and teachings with CRT. There it is, gender theories, cultural linguistic studies, social emotional, there's the other one, social emotional learning, SEL, social emotional well-being, and tenets, which means the religion of critical race theory. Tenets are the religion or the thought processes that the mind altering tenets of critical race theory. All in this letter, just in one paragraph, just supports how these teachers unions are pushing CRT, DEI, social emotional learning into our schools through Cal State Fullerton and Chapman University, and through the two school board members, Carrie Buck and Karen Freeman, as you can see here, that they are owned by these unions. This is not hyperbole. This is not something that I'm making up out of thin air. They are ensconced with, I think that's the right word. I never used that word my entire life. Ensconced with the CTA, the NEA, and the APLE, that they are owned by the teachers unions. And how do we know that? Because here they are. Here's Carrie Buck thanking APLE and the CSEA, which is the employees other than teachers in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District. As we zoom in closer, you can see down here it says, as paid for by the Association of the Placentia Linda Educators Community. The Placentia Linda Educators Association is supporting these teachers. They've given them $45,000. So coming back to my camera, is that do you see how these are all connected? That you see why they voted against CRT is because it's being pushed by Cal State University, Fullerton, and Chapman through the teachers unions. Let me just go to my screen one more time here as I bring up the CTA website. Here we have the CTA website, California Teachers Association website. And if you went on there yourself, go to cta.org and just peruse their website. You will see everywhere on this website. I'm going to jump down to a specific spot down here. Where to go? Maybe this one's up here earlier. I think so. And we believe our public schools are worth fighting for. The belief has guided our union since 1863. Today, you're still dedicated to equal access, justice, and resources for all California students, teachers, and classrooms. There's another spot on here somewhere. Sorry. Oh, here we go. It was right here. I missed it by one. teaching students, advocating for education, strengthening our union, fighting for social justice. Check out what educators are up to throughout California. This is the most important thing to the CTA, that it's the first thing on their website. This is right off the top of their website. If we go to the NEA, oh, here we go. This is where, so this is the NEA website. You can see up in the left-hand corner. If we scroll down, we will see right down here where, again, on their homepage, on the front page, where it says, we've spent decades working for student educators, but there's still more work to be done to do, like our progress during a civil rights and women's rights movements. We need to dig in and speak up for the students and educators who are still facing inequality every day. Create just and equitable schools, stand up for racial and social justice. And again, these key words, that those things are far more important to these teachers unions than education. You would be hard pressed, and I am hard pressed to find anything about teaching kids how to read, how to write, how to count, and how to think. There's all kinds of stuff on here to tell them what to think and what to indoctrinate them with, for them to believe that the most important thing are racial issues and dividing children up into races, and to make sure that they understand that there are a group of people that are oppressors and there's a group of people that are oppressed, that the police are racist, that the nuclear family is bad, that we need to be more concerned about pronouns and to pretend that there's 50 other genders out there, and that men can get pregnant, and that we should not know what a woman is, that those things are more important. And that is what it is the parents are against. We are for teachers. We are for education. We are for teachers that want to educate our kids. But we do not want these other things taught. We know that by electing Todd Frazier and Rich Engel, Todd Frazier being a CPA, Rich Engel being an attorney, adding to the police officer and fireman that we have in Leander Blades and Sean Youngblood, that these people that have knowledge and life experience on what it means to be a well-educated person as we go into the workforce, as we go into the world and tackle real world problems, not this make-up stuff or made-up stuff, that it's important that they have educated. They have critical thinking. They have a way of thinking critically, not critical race theory. Critical thinking is so much different. To be able to problem solve, to be able to know what is right and what is wrong, not what it is we believe is right is wrong, what truly is right, what truly is wrong, what our true history is, our real history, not a made up, convoluted history that matches the idea that the country is a racist country. That is not a real history. That is a made up history to match a belief. So this is what it is that parents are for and what parents are against. And just so important you understand those differences. So I hope this presentation has helped. So yeah, I hope it's helped. It's so hard to deal with any of these issues. And again, I'm just barely touching the surface, as I've done so much research and studied. I'm reading a couple books on pedagogy right now, and what that's all about. You can't even get you can't find one even dictionary or a website in regard to education that can agree on the meaning of pedagogy. If that's one of the ways you say it, pedagogy, whatever. When it says, it's too close to pedophile for me, but either way, it's not good. It's an indoctrination into things that we don't necessarily need our children learning. Again, maybe in a university setting when they can have a discussion and critical thinking to go along with it, but not with pre-K, elementary school age to junior high. This is not a time. The time that they spend in elementary, middle school, and high school is for education on the basics, to get them to a place where they can actually graduate from high school and get a job, or pick a university that matches whatever it is that they want to gain a degree in. And then they're on their own to be manipulated and indoctrinated by the professors. And hopefully we will make our children strong enough to ignore much of that stuff. So I hope that's helpful. It's so difficult because in many ways, again, when you get into explaining what CRT is, it's difficult because people often don't want to hear it. They want to believe that the school board members that they've been voting in for the last several decades have been doing the right thing. We can tell you, and I showed you that they have not. With the grades, that we have children that are just below standard in reading and mathematics and other portions of education, to the sexual and pornographic things that are being encouraged by the CTA and the NEA and the APLE, that these things are being encouraged. Again, unlike some of the other school districts that actually have it happening currently, we've had spatterings of it from librarians and from some teachers who have thrown in these pornographic books and those types of things. Those things have been happening, but probably not to the level of many others. But this is the work of the parents, the PYL parents in these school boards, and Leander Blades and Sean Youngblood, is to keep it that way and to keep it out entirely, to reduce it to zero, when maybe right now it's merely 5% of some of the stuff that's coming in there in some areas, and maybe even greater, because again, we just don't know, because their children are being encouraged not to tell parents. We know children that have been punished and the parents haven't been notified of this type of disciplinary action that's being happened in school, that parents are being cut out, again, on less of a level than other school districts and maybe other states and cities throughout the country. But again, without maintaining or voting in candidates that will look out for parents, this could very quickly turn into an LA County school district. This could very quickly turn into a Portland school district. And that is what we're fighting against. So you can listen to these people saying, well, it's not happening or it hasn't happened. Okay, let's just say that that's true. Like I said in the presentation, well, let's not only keep it that way, let's make sure it doesn't happen on any level, that we be the one school district in California that protects our children. Let's be that school district. Let's be that school district that protects teachers that want to teach children how to read, write, count, and think. Let's protect those teachers, those students, and those parents that want to make this school district an example of education, that most of our children are above that, the minimum education, not below standard, not 40% are at grade level when it comes to reading or mathematics, that our children are 90% above grade level. And many of them, a large percentage, is 2 grades higher than they should be. All right. So one last thing before I leave this. Of course, we definitely are telling you that Todd Frazier and Rich Engel are the vote of the PYL parents that understand the importance of getting these 2 men voted in. But in regard to Todd Frazier, unfortunately, we have somebody by the name of Steve Slauson who has thrown his signs out there and is knocking on doors and in many cases lying about his credentials and lying about Todd Frazier in an effort to try to really mess things up for PYL parents who really care about their kids. More things are coming out, and I have been very careful in making sure that I don't say anything that's not known, but with every day, more continues to come out about Steve Slauson, about his ownership in some businesses that we do not think are a good reflection on what would be a school board member. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it's illegal. There are some people saying that some of the things he's doing are illegal, but I can't tell you that for sure. But I can tell you that when we have Todd Frazier, who is a stand-up community member, who is a CPA, and you can visit his office. I'm sure you can look him up on the internet and you can find that he's been a CPA. His father, as far as I know, was also a CPA, and that it's not hard to find. You try to find anything on Steve Slauson and you can't find it. And it's very confusing as to, okay, what kind of business are you in? We don't know. Does that make it necessarily that he's maybe not qualified in many ways? Quite possibly. However, all I know is when it comes to a solid candidate that we want on the school board is one that we know that we have vetted, that we can look at and say, oh, this is what he does for a business. These are his Yelp reviews. These are the people that have used him and think he's a stand-up guy. But when we look at Steve Slauson, it's like, we don't know. We can't figure it out. And again, when you're weighing just on that factor alone, Todd Frazier is, again, the person who comes out ahead. When we look at somebody with integrity that says, hey, if I get XYZ endorsements, then I would appreciate it if you would not continue to run. And the other person would say, okay, if you get those endorsements, or if I get those endorsements, our agreement is the other person won't run. And when that happened, when Todd Frazier got the endorsements of the Orange County GOP to Orange County education, school board members, educators, and what have you, and other organizations within our local Orange County political organizations, when all of them gave their endorsement to Todd Frazier, which was above and beyond what the agreement was, and Steve Slauson says, you know what, I'm not going to do what I said. I'm not going to maintain my agreement or my whatever handshake or a man-to-man agreement. I'm not going to honor that. That speaks to somebody's integrity. Todd got the endorsements. He got more than enough endorsements. He got beyond what it is that their agreement said. And yet Steve Slauson shows lack of integrity by not doing what he said, and admits so on audio. A person recorded him speaking, and he admitted that he did say that he was going to back out, but he said that he changed his mind and now said that he's not. And again, we have just more and more confirmation that his integrity is minimal, if not zero, if not negative zero, negative or below zero. I went to public school, so I'm having trouble with my math. And we don't know enough about him. And so we could just take those two factors alone and say, listen, we have a guy X who shows great integrity, who has the endorsements, who we can see what he does for a living, and we can actually probably contact people that have used him as a CPA. And I have not met anybody that has a bad thing to say about Todd Frazier. For Steve Slauson, can't say the same. Just simply can't say it. And so this is what we are up against. So if we've heard also one last thing before we leave here. We've heard people say, well, he's a friend of ours, or he's a family member, whatever it is, and so that's why we're supporting him. Now, again, a year ago, whatever it was that PYL parents really were out there trying to find, vetting something like 20 or 30 different people to find the right one, which is Todd Frazier. I suggested then, and even in a broadcast said, listen, we have to put our personal feelings aside. Even if say my wife was running, for instance, and Todd Frazier came out and we looked at all these things, we would have to be bold enough and understanding enough that it is our children that are important. What is it that's going to achieve success? When we go out there, as much as I maybe love my wife and think that her qualifications are high, if the overall PYL group said, you know what, we love your wife too, but we think Todd Frazier is the better candidate, then I would have to put my personal feelings aside and my love for my wife and say, you know what, wife, let's have a little discussion. And as much as I love you, I think that we have to back out, because the majority of the PYL parents are in with Todd Frazier. And that's what we'd have to do, because we care about our parents so much. We care about the good teachers so much. We care about our community so much that is what's important. Who is it that's going to be endorsed and supported by the greatest number of people because of X, Y, and Z? And although you are not a bad person, my wife, it looks like Todd Frazier is the selection of the majority of those people that have our children's best interest in mind. And we would have to hold up to that. And I made that plea. I even made that plea to people that are friends with Steve Slauson and even family of Steve Slauson, and said, this is more important than our feelings. It's that important. And yet we still have people like Tracy and I'm going to go on some other names here that say, you know what, he's my friend, and so I'm going to vote for him, and I'm going to campaign for him. And you just go, what is it you're missing? What is it you don't understand? So all I can do is suggest to you is that, listen, is as close as you may be to Steve, as much as you may like him as a person, and maybe you even think that he's the better candidate. Again, that's not as important as to what's going to happen. Let's just say that 50% of the people here in this community think Steve Slauson is fantastic, and 50% think Todd Frazier is fantastic. You're doing something calling splitting the vote, which takes those numbers down below what if Karen Freeman it's Karen Freeman. I'm losing track of who's who. Often do. Gets all the votes that she would want on her side of the aisle, then she's going to end up winning because of the votes being split between our two candidates. Just saying those that are against the opponent. So with that, I hope that the explanation of why it's important to understand where Karen Freeman and Carrie Buck stand on this issue with CRT, and that they've fairly were debunked is the word. Is that the word I'm looking for? Exposed that CRT was being brought into our school, actively being brought into our school by Cal State University Fullerton and Chapman University. The proof is in the message by Dr. Matthews. He proved it. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. You may not know that our country is not a democracy, but you at least did us a favor by putting out this message. It is a constitutional republic. You may want to look that up. And we appreciate that you put out this email, because it just, again, confirms what we all knew was happening. All right. So again, I know these can be very difficult subjects to talk about, and I hope I did a decent job, or a good enough job, for those of you that may be on the fence, that understand the importance of understanding why CRT had to be banned, and why Todd Frazier is by far the better candidate than Steve Slauson. And you just simply need to tell your friends, ignore Steve Slauson. Make sure that everybody that you know needs to do the same. Just ignore his name on the ballot. Put all of your effort into Todd Frazier. Help Todd Frazier. Go to his website. All the links, including the letter that Dr. Matthews sent out to the parents, the link is in the description. Just click on that. Also, the websites for Todd Frazier and Rich Engel are in there also. Click on the links. Find out how you can help them walk throughout the area 4 and area 5, to help them get elected. And of course, donate any amount of money that you can donate to help them with the remainder of the campaign. It's something like 20 days or something like that. We're down to hardly any days left. Let me just look really quick how many days we have left. I gotta stop talking so I can type. Anybody else have to do that? Or is it just me? It's quite possibly just me. Hold on, I gotta find this website. There it is. We have exactly 18 days, 3 hours, 16 minutes left. 18 days, 3 hours, 16 minutes left before November 8th election. So find out how you can vote. Go to his website, go to Todd's website, Rich's website, how you can help and support them in their election to the school board. So important. All right, my friends, that's it. I will talk to you later. Take care. I will see you next time.